I'm Ben Sperry, and this was the Give and Go Basketball Podcast.
Welcome back to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. We have a full episode coming at you here with Ben Sperry, Ryan Steele. I'll be your host, Mitch Shreve. So to start this episode off, I have to tell a little bit of an embarrassing story. Coming down the wire here to the NBA, before we started filming, Ben and I were talking about the playoff picture a little bit, and come to find out, I had no idea that there was even play-in games. So in my defense, for a guy who kind of hosts a basketball podcast show, one would think that I would know that. I didn't know that. But in my defense, I have been preoccupied with other things. So let's just kind of get into it by, talking about some of these, clashes that we're going to see coming up, the races. I think the East is pretty heated, pretty tight and close. Steele, why don't you go ahead and start me off?
Well, yeah, I mean, just in the last few weeks, certain teams have slipped a little bit. Certain teams have, jumped and been on a little bit of a run. In the East, the Hawks and the Knicks have been really hot as of late. The Knicks have been playing really good defensively, squeezing pretty much everything they can out of D Rose at this point in his career. Julius Randle has been, it's been a revelation for him this year. I feel like getting his usage up, and they've been awesome. The Hawks too. I don't know. I couldn't put a finger on it. Ben mentioned we were off air that it could be just Bogdanovich is healthy, and now he's adding another lead guard to Trae Young and what they can do. Obviously with John Collins there, but they've been excellent. One of the best teams since they fired their coach a month or so ago. And then out west, I mean, even in the East, the top three teams, they kind of pulled away. We kind of know those top three teams. You still got the Nuggets and the Lakers there right in the mix in the middle of the West. I think those top five teams are probably the best there in the West. But it's starting to make it, itself clear some of these matchups we'll probably see.
Ben?
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good summary of where it's at. I would add that Boston's had its moments that they've looked pretty tough lately too, at least in some of the games I saw that are nationally televised. And I think we talked about a while back a team that could possibly make a run that hasn't been, towards the top of the league so far. I think Boston might be low-key a dark horse contender for that as well, kind of like Miami was last year. Somewhat underachieved most of the season, but they still got some talent there, and especially their two big wings with Brown and Tatum, that they could be a tough out at any level in the East, I would think. And then in the West, it's been interesting to see, how the top three teams have almost flown somewhat under the radar in a weird way when they got the three best records in the league. But Utah, Phoenix, and the Clippers have all been great this year. And it's actually interesting that I think people still are just like, well, all this is only going to hold until the Lakers get healthy, or they look at the star power for Brooklyn and say those are the best teams, the favorites. But those three teams are all really, really good. And I think the Western Conference playoffs are going to be awesome. So I'm excited to see what comes out with there.
I think one thing that's interesting about the East and the West, we say, the three teams have kind of pulled away in each one. And then, for the West, 4 and 5 are your, the teams that played in the Western Conference Finals last year. Probably the two teams that most people thought would be, repeating to come back to that Western Conference Finals. Throw in the Clippers there too,
Yeah.
But then you look in the East, in the teams that have been the most inconsistent that we all thought would be good with the Heat and the Celtics have been inconsistent most this year. And now the Knicks and the Hawks have jumped ahead of them. But I think if you polled most people, your average NBA fan, your average basketball fan, who do you trust in a playoff series? I think people are still going to trust the Celtics and the Heat in a playoff series over a Hawks or over a Knicks team that, doesn't have any sort of playoff experience. I think that's something that I'd be interested to see if they finish ahead of, Miami and Boston.
Yeah, and I think as the East, we start to get to like those matchups coalescing. Um, both for Boston and Miami, they probably want to somehow sneak up and get ahead of
You want to get to the
Atlanta.
4th seed.
You want to get to the 4 or 5 seed because if
Yeah.
not, you're going to end up having to face Milwaukee, Philadelphia, or
Yes.
Brooklyn early.
Yes.
And, those teams are still the best teams in the
Mhm.
East, have the most talent. So, if those, I think for Boston, Miami, it's going to be key if one of them can catch Atlanta or the Knicks.
I think if you're Miami, I'm not to say you want Milwaukee in the first round, but I think that's a matchup you'd rather see than the Nets. Only because for whatever reason, the way Bam and now with Ariza taking kind of that Jay Crowder role from last year, and Jimmy, obviously, you got guys that you can throw at Giannis and Chris Middleton, and you've seen them. There's a good matchup for them. I think the Heat wouldn't mind that matchup. Obviously, you'd rather play the Knicks or the Hawks.
Right.
But
Well, you
that's
probably
the
don't want to
matchup.
play Philly either, right? Because Embiid's
Right.
been so tough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to play Philly or the Nets. Not that anybody in Miami is going to say that they're scared of those teams, but it's a matchup you really don't want in the first round.
Yeah, and then I like all the matchups potentially in the West, and we'll talk about in a second how the play-in games will maybe affect this. But I love like Denver, LA as a first-round matchup. I'd love it more if Denver was healthy going into it because it doesn't look like they're going to be even close. And obviously LeBron and AD aren't back yet, but we all expect them to be ready for the playoffs. Yeah. So, that kind of puts a little bit of a damper on it. But again, those are two really, really good teams right off the bat. But I even like, because it's going to shake out that the Clippers and the Suns play either Dallas or Portland. In some way, right? And those are good matchups because I don't know if, even though Phoenix and the Clippers have been so great this season, that you would say they're massive favorites against either one of those.
In some of those cross matchups, if you talk like a Clippers Portland series with maybe seeing legit PG and Kawhi guarding Dame and CJ, I think that'd be cool to see, honestly.
Yeah, and it will come down to matchups to some extent, and who gets hot. Like we saw last year how good Doncic looked. I mean, if KP doesn't get hurt, Dallas could have really pushed the Clippers. I think. That could happen against the Clippers or even Phoenix. Like I think that's an interesting matchup too, to see those guys all run up against each other.
Phoenix is a team that I'm kind of interested in the most because all those other teams in the West, we've at least seen some version of that team go in the playoffs. We saw the Mavericks finally get there last year with Luka, and then the Lakers, we've seen them win a title. Clippers, the Nuggets have been around with Jokic, and I know Murray's not in there, but that Suns team, other than Chris Paul, man, that's a lot of guys that have done a lot of losing. I'm super interested to see how they play in a playoff series.
Well, one stat real quick, you guys had mentioned it earlier with Atlanta, and I just looked it up, so I love this because as far as coaching goes, but Atlanta's coaching switch halfway through the season, Lloyd Pierce started the season out at 14-20. And then after they fired him and Nate McMillan took over, he went 19-7.
Yeah.
And now they're sitting currently in the 5th seed in the East. I think that's a huge turnaround. So, but let's go ahead and drop down the list a little bit to the to these play-in teams in the lesser slots here in the playoffs. You look at some of these records in both the East and West, and there's a lot of teams that are capable of making a run and getting into one of these play-in spots. Ben, go ahead and tell me what you think.
Well, yeah. So just one for some of our listeners that might not be quite aware of how it's going to work this year. 7 will play 8 in each conference, and the winner of that's into the playoffs. And then the loser has to play the winner of 9 versus 10 to get the last seed. So, in other words, if you're the 9 or 10 seed, you got to win twice to get in versus just once if you're the 7 or 8 seed. I like this for a variety of reasons. I think it extends the number of teams that decide to continue to play it out versus tank. Like you look in the East, for instance, Toronto and Chicago as 11 and 12 seeds currently. That's tanking range historically.
And I think you saw that with the trade deadline with Chicago.
Right, but
normally a team that's a 10 or 11 seed is not going to go out and make a deal.
Right.
I kind of like that it made them make a deal.
Right, because they're 1 game back from the 10 seed and you know, or even 2 games back from a 9 seed. So like they can make a run still and end up having a chance to play themselves into the playoffs. In the West, it's a little bit more of a separation, but the Pelicans are still only 3 games back. I think for the sake of excitement, the NBA might want to start cheating a little bit to get Zion into the playoffs, but they, you know, we'll see what happens there.
What are they? They're the 11th seed right now?
Yeah, they're 3 games back from San Antonio.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Right. But what I really, really like about it this year is it gives Steph Curry a puncher's chance to get himself into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if he does, even if they're the 8th seed, I
kind of don't wants to see that.
I don't think Utah, as good as they've been this year, wants to see Steph Curry. Because there's a chance there, because so much is predicated in Utah off of, you know, the big guy, Gobert, on offense and defense. If you can play him off the court, because he can't switch onto Curry, it makes for an interesting matchup all of a sudden.
Yeah, Steele, what you think about it?
I mean, out east, I mean, I'm not saying I don't take the Wizards super serious. I mean, they got 2 really, really good players. So yeah, could they find themselves played in? Sure. I mean, I think the top 8 teams in the East really speak for themselves. And in the West, I mean, I kind of agree with Ben. The NBA should maybe cheat a little bit to get Zion in. I mean, I know we kid, but man, it'd be great to see him in there. You know, such a dynamic player. But I think it's cool. I don't know if I'd like a play-in series, you know, every year going forward. I think for this weird, you know, COVID world that we've lived in for the last, you know, year plus, I think it's pretty cool. And also, depending on how this goes with, you know, state by state, home court advantage is not as important. Even like last year in the bubble, it wasn't a big deal. So if you find yourself as a Lakers team who's a 5 seed and not having any sort of home court advantage, doesn't really, you know, matter that much compared to a normal season, I don't think.
That's a good point. I just like it because of the, you know, it decreases teams tanking and it, you know, keeps played later in the season a lot more interesting. And like Ben even said, right now, my Cavs are in, they're a long shot, but they are still technically within striking distance and can make a run here. Will it happen? No, but it's possible. And I like that the fact that they can keep playing towards that. Any other final thoughts from you guys before we go to break?
No, sir.
Hey, tell us what you're thinking playoff wise. If what teams you think have a shot, what matchups you would like to see in the comments below. We'll be right back. We got a pretty fun segment coming up for you next. This is the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. Welcome back to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. I am with Ben Sperry and Ryan Steele. I'm your host, Mitch Shreve. We got a fun segment planned for you here, and I don't know how this got started. And I think it was it Ben's idea or Ryan's idea?
Benjamin.
All right, so it was Ben's idea. And Ben, I'm going to give this to you in a second here, but we are going to be comparing NBA players to superheroes, comic book characters. And Ben, I gotta know where you got this idea from.
You know, I just was thinking of different players and like kind of the runs they were going on and who it then like made me like think of from like the fictional realm. And the first one was actually just this tear that Steph Curry's been on. I was like, he's basically John Wick out there the last couple weeks, right? It's like somebody killed his dog and he just went nuts and he started like, I'm just going to hit every 3 for the next 2 weeks because somebody's pissed me off. And that's not really his character, I guess. So maybe it doesn't quite fit. I've heard Human Torch and some of these other ones used for Steph Curry as well. But it just felt like this run he's been on the last couple of weeks was did I do it again?
Yeah, you did it. So a
This
little
run the last couple weeks is very
backstory.
John Wick.
Yeah, a little backstory. Ben's mic has been going a little choppy and kind of glitching out on us. And while we were off camera, he held his finger up for a split second. Well, it froze right when he had his finger over his mustache. So we got
So if you see this, I just know Ben's mic is
Ben glitched out. But anyways, it was kind of funny too. Steele, you had mentioned that you were at home just cracking up at the text messages we had going back and forth.
Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of just started shooting some ideas off the cuff to each other about, guys that remind me of this guy or that guy. And some of them are honestly really good and they really make a lot of sense.
For coaching, I have because, we're trying to figure out games, if games are on, if games are canceled. Unfortunately, it's an everyday occurrence. So I have my phone with me during class. So I'm trying to referee a game and my phone keeps blowing up. So I keep looking at it to see if it's an update on our game situation or not all week. And here it's you guys just keep blasting these things and I'm sitting there cracking up. They were great. So let's hear some of these comparisons to comic book heroes to NBA players. Who wants to go first? Because I know you both have a bunch of good ones.
Okay, so like Ben said, the idea started from Steph Curry, John Wick, him just going off, killing everybody. And then I think we get into some of the more obvious ones. And Ben referenced this in kind of our talks was LeBron would be just boring ass Superman. Like he would just be, Mr. I'm here to save the day, the face of the superhero, brand kind of the most long-standing kind of superhero. But then I think we have a lot more creative ones. One that me and Ben like a lot would be Chris Paul would be Iron Man. For the fact that, he is one of the greats, one of the best, but maybe he's not everybody's favorite. He rubs people the wrong way. He's kind of, a douche sometimes. And even his own teammates don't necessarily like him all the time. It was the way he treats them during game time situations.
But yet he's the consummate leader. He's a genius.
Yes,
right?
it's pros and cons to every superhero here, man.
Right, and he feels like he punches even considerably above his super power level.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
As he continues to be great with the longevity. So,
and showing off my nerd side a little bit, Tony Stark worked with the government a little bit. Is Chris Paul still the head of the players union?
It's all right there.
Chris Paul a snitch. I was like, dang. I was like, dang, he's on paperwork. What's going on out here?
Just saying, the players union ties with the government a little bit.
I'm with it. I see it.
Business savvy, Jake from State Farm. Anybody? Come on now.
So I thought that was a really good one. Ben also said Jimmy Butler as Batman. Because really, I mean, he's just a dude. He's just a dude that will fight. A dude will fight. Puts his little suit on, but doesn't have any real powers.
He has no superpowers, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it's weird. It doesn't quite work because, Batman. I mean, he does have billions of dollars, so that helps him. Whereas Jimmy's the working class, superhero in a sense. He came up from nothing, but at the same time, it feels like it kind of works in a weird way because they're just leaders that raise the level again.
Well, because and Batman to me is not really a superhero because he doesn't have superhero abilities.
No,
you know what I'm saying? He doesn't have any powers. So,
and that the argument is Jimmy Butler a superstar? But then the team gets to the finals and it's what does it matter? I mean, he helped lead a team way beyond where people expected him to be. So.
And my personal favorite was Russell Westbrook is Killmonger. I think, if spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Black Panther by now, what have you been doing for the last 8 years of your life? But a villain who basically is like a hissing radiator at all times, but loved by his group, fighting for what he believes is right, and kind of proven to be right in a lot of ways, and you kind of feel why he's so feisty and why he is the way he is. why he plays the villain,
And I think this really works because of all the guys that you can think of in the NBA. I can think of nobody more that would like just destroy an individual superstar in a matchup and like yell, "Is this your king?" while he's doing it than Russell Westbrook would. Right. So like watch this in the play-in games and then maybe possibly the playoffs. If Washington gets in and then, they win a game or two, maybe just one, but because, Russell Westbrook has a 40-point triple-double, he's going to act like he's the baddest.
Russ's version of "Is this your king?" is this right here.
He can still, in given moments, be the baddest dude on the basketball court. And,
For sure.
And I can totally imagine that situation arising.
We would go ahead.
I was gonna call you out on one. I want to hear your comparison to Robin, from Batman and Robin. If you don't know who I'm referencing, this was the one that got me. I started busting up laughing big time.
So to me, Kyrie Irving is Robin because Robin's cool. You know what I'm saying? He does his thing. Like nobody hates. I mean, Robin does his thing, but he's atrocious without Batman. He's a stinking loser without Batman. He always gets himself into some trouble. Batman tries to tell him, "Don't go in there, Robin. Wait for me, dude." And he runs in there, gets himself all caught up. Batman got to come save him. Look at Kyrie, man. He tries to go off on his own every time. We with the Cavs, he stunk. And then, he went to Celtics. They were better without him. So he needs his LeBron or his KD or his, somebody to be his Batman for him to be good. That's my theory with Kyrie.
And, that even kind of works with comic book lore to some degree, because if I'm remembering correctly, Robin eventually becomes Nightwing, which is like this other Batman knockoff because he wants, to have more shine. So,
right.
Maybe that's who he is. He's Nightwing.
Yeah. And then, Ryan, I also liked your Giannis.
So, this is really just typecasting because I said Giannis could either be Inspector Gadget or Stretch Armstrong, but obviously I'm dumb because he just has long arms. I'm not sure if that one really.
Well,
that's why I said Kevin Durant would be Mr. Fantastic, and it kind of works because he's a leader too. Because Mr. Fantastic's leader of the Fantastic Four, but that's his powers being long.
Giannis, I was watching a clip and Giannis went up for a dunk, and all I could think in my head was "Go Gadget arms." So I just started busting up laughing. So I like that one. That's where I went.
See, I would go a different way with Giannis, and really it could be him or possibly Joel Embiid for this, but somebody's got to be Black Panther because that's a pretty sweet character, and just being guys that are relatively recent African heritage. I mean, Nigerian immigrants in the case of Giannis in Greece, and then of course Embiid being from he's from Senegal, right? Yeah,
Cameroon, I think.
Cameroon. Okay, yeah. No, that's right. Him and the dude from Toronto.
Yeah.
Pascal.
Siakam.
Do we have one for your guy Jokic? Can we think off the top if Jokic matches?
That's tough. I'd have to think about it for a minute because I feel like his superpowers have to do with making other people better, maybe using some magic in that sense. So maybe Doctor Strange or something.
Ooh, I like that one.
Is there any superhero that was the boring one that just sat in the office and gave them info all day? Because I feel like that's what Jokic would be.
Well, there's a lot of them out there that do that.
Because the league I think doesn't want him to be the face of the league only because he's not flashy.
Yeah.
I feel like most superheroes are somewhat flashy.
Yeah.
I mean, he could be born ass Captain America. I mean, even though he'd be Captain Serbia, but
right.
Nobody wants Cap around boring ass.
He is really boring character.
He's the
Superman,
worst.
Man.
He's the worst.
I agree with that.
So let me test you guys a little bit now. Who's the Hulk? Who just goes out and hulks out? Fights for good,
I think right now, Zion would be up there.
Yeah.
Zion would be either the Beast from X-Men or Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
De'Aaron Fox is Nightcrawler.
Mm-hmm.
or some sort of fast. He's so fast. He's got to be one of the faster superheroes.
The Flash or something.
The Flash or something, right? You know who was it? I think D Wade said that De'Aaron Fox is the player that realized that he had to retire. He played against the Kings one night against De'Aaron Fox and was like, okay, like nah. I can't. I just can't run like this anymore. I don't belong in this league anymore.
What about Spider-Man? Just insane athleticism, agility. I'm just trying to pick some fan favorite superheroes.
That's a good one. That's actually a good question.
I mean, there's an answer. It's Donovan Mitchell.
I think Donovan Mitchell's too cool though. Spider-Man's a cornball, so you gotta go. Fair. Peter Parker's a goof, so you gotta go like
his alter ego.
Somebody who is really good, but is also like, okay, this dude's a twerp. Like, I'm just trying to think somebody like that. Because to me, Donovan's not a twerp. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people are gonna kill me for this because Spider-Man's cool, but he's kind of like, yeah, let's go, guys. Here I am. I'll do this fine. Watch out, web coming at you. Like he doesn't like mess. He like ties them up. He don't like mess them up. Like he's not like beating people with hammers and stuff. Like
that's true. I don't know. Maybe I gotta think about it. But I was gonna go with Donovan Mitchell because his nickname's actually Spider, and I don't know. He kind of fits the mold you described.
Duncan Robinson's Jimmy Neutron with his Jimmy Neutron head.
Well, if we want to go with lookalikes, then
do you CJ McCollum?
Well, yes, but first I would say Aquaman would be my man down in
Steven Adams
now, Steven Adams, because like he basically looks like the new Aquaman.
Poseidon.
Yeah. But if you want to go for another, cross comparison, and this isn't a comic book, but CJ McCollum is he's not Steve Urkel, he's Stephon
Urkel turned into Stephon.
Stephon Urkel.
Yeah, because he's cool. He's like the cool version.
Right, he is.
I'm trying to think. Are we missing any other players that we need to have a comparison?
I think we had a few that we had listed the other day that were pretty good. Let's see.
I'm trying to dive into this is the X-Men world of things.
So Dame, I would say.
That's the one.
So if Steph's not the Human Torch because he's John Wick, then Dame is like the Human Torch.
Because he's John Wick.
He just turns into fire sometimes from 3, and can't be stopped. So I think that one works.
Okay, which coach is Professor X? If we're going to the X-Men world.
Ooh.
Is Pop Professor X?
He gets.
I think Phil Jackson is Professor X, since he always sat instead of standing when he coached.
Mm-hmm. That's a good.
That's my word. I'm sticking to it.
Maybe.
Do we have
Magneto?
Magneto.
Gotta have a great villain, man.
Pat Riley.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
No, I don't know. I
don't know.
I
like that.
Were there really that many villainous coaches?
I don't know. Yeah, that's tougher.
Look, we could go away with this. I think there's some that we probably shouldn't say because it might offend some people. So we could just stick to superheroes because there's some that people are like, oh, that's messed up. He don't look like that.
Well, I think this is a good time to take our next break. Hey, when we get back, we're going to go ahead and do a lightning round that we got a little inspiration from the fans a little bit. And then we'll wrap it up. Hey, this is the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. Stick around. Thanks for listening to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. Ben Sperry, Ryan Steele. I'm your host, Mitch Shreve. We are going to do a lightning round. And this one is actually inspired by a friend of you guys, Josh Kelso, who made a comment about how, Ryan, you still have the ability to hear a player's name and say what college they went to. So we got a little David versus Goliath here going on.
What up, Jay?
It's going to be Ben versus Ryan. See who can name the college fast. So I'm gonna give a name of a basketball player. You guys have to tell me what college you went to. I do have a mix of Hall of Famers and current players. So we'll see. And there's 8 total. So we'll see. And then I can always do a tiebreaker if we need to. So to start it off, Jesus Shuttlesworth himself, Ray Allen.
Connecticut.
There we go.
Oh, I thought we were asking who Jesus Shuttlesworth played for.
Oh.
Which was like, wasn't it
Lincoln
Big State?
High School.
Big State. All
It was
right.
Big State. in
Oh, okay,
college.
okay, yeah.
Ben, I'll give you half a point there. All right.
I like it.
All right, next one. Yogi Ferrell.
Indiana.
Ooh,
Hey, Ben, you knew that?
I
Go
think Ben
ahead,
got
bro.
one. All right, we're all tied up 1-1. Ben has the tiebreaker with Jesus Shuttlesworth too, so it's 1.5-1. All right, this one's a little tricky. Joe Dumars.
I feel like it was a historically black school. I'm pretty sure,
It's
like Southwestern Alabama State or something weird.
Not
is
that.
it Grambling?
No, but close to Grambling. It's McNeese.
Oh,
State.
Yeah, McNeese State. Yeah, that's right.
Nobody gets that one. All right. Kawhi Leonard.
San Diego State.
State.
Ooh, I think Ben got it first. Sorry.
Damn.
2-1.
Here.
2.5-1. All right. Reggie Miller.
UCLA.
Ooh, Ben again.
Woo!
And David.
Is my connection bad?
Dude, he's coming across quicker, man. And David took a rock from his sack and slung it right here. All right, ready? Brooke Lopez.
Stanford.
Ooh.
Damn it.
All right.
I just gotta talk faster. That's my.
Yeah, I think that's all I was doing before, is just saying it faster. It wasn't that I knew it faster.
So this could be a tricky one or it could not. I'm not sure. I knew this one personally, but I don't know if you guys will. Bob Lanier.
Damn, that's old.
Yeah, Hall of Fame center here.
I have no idea.
I'm not even gonna.
I
formulate
chose
a
this
guess.
one for a special reason, but
Edinburgh.
no, but kind of. He went D1, but it was St. Bonaventure.
Oh, okay.
And I know some people who went there, and then it's close to us. So, all right, Ben still has the lead. I think it's 3-2.
I don't know.
I don't know. All right, last one, unless I need to do a tiebreaker. Tristan Thompson,
Ah, shoot. I don't know. He's from
Texas.
Canada, isn't he?
Texas.
Canada.
Got it. All right, so I'm gonna call it 3-3. So we'll do a tiebreaker.
I was like, where's Tristan Thompson, guys?
All right, let's go
Kardashian
with.
University.
I'm looking for a good one here. Ooh, I like this one himself, or the mayor, Kevin Johnson.
Ooh, where did he go to college?
Right? Wasn't he the mayor of Sacramento or something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
He
Okay.
also had a scandal, but that's okay.
Boy, that's a good one.
Oh yeah.
He had some good years at Phoenix, though. He was really, really good.
I'll give you a hint here. It was in California.
I don't think either of us deserve this one. We might have to go.
Well,
to the
I
second.
definitely just gave it away because it's California. He went to California.
He's California Bear. He's a California Bear. Okay.
I really didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's try one more. We'll go current player here.
Davidson. I won.
Yeah, yes. Winner. All right. Ooh, I got a good one here. Maybe if I can. All right.
We got a good one.
Kobe White.
UNC.
North Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, all right. We'll give it a tie. Ben got the half-point win with Jesus Shuttles. All right. Final thoughts. Steele.
No, this was fun. I think we'll have more content here for everybody once these playoffs get started. And there's literally great games every single night. As good as this play-in thing is for the league, I think right now we talked about teams not tanking as much. There still is some games on a nightly basis that are like, I really don't want to watch, Pistons Pacers tonight. I'm good on that. Once you got, triple headers of just awesome games every night, and it's just such boiled down, series every single night, same teams. We'll have so much more to talk about. We might even have just way more content than we've had, throughout the pod.
Ben?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think as the season comes to an end too, be on the lookout. We're probably going to have some episodes on, our second half, or for full season, I guess, award winners and stuff like that coming up. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And we do have a lot of cool off-season stuff coming up for you too, because we do plan on continuing this in the off-season. So we have a lot of good content coming up, and it also helps if um, coming up here, I'm mid-season coaching right now, so I have not been at my normal available self for these guys, but yeah, we'll be coming out with a lot of new content. And hey, again, continue to like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Ryan, I can see you want to say something. Go.
I got one more thing.
Yeah.
Kind of a shout out. Ben's homie, I don't know your name. You were mad. You caught feelings about the Anthony Edwards thing, about the T-Wolves. Look, man, he's a nice young player. Just hasn't been what I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be overall clearly the best player in this draft. He hadn't been that. LaMelo was smoking his boots. I'm sorry. Don't be mad. He's still a young god. We like him. Don't catch feelings. And I'm glad we shouted out Josh. Love you, man. Miss you. Thank you for everybody watching.
Yep. And hey, perfect way to end it. This is the Give and Go Basketball Podcast. We'll see you next time.
I'm Ben Sperry, and this was the Give and Go Basketball Podcast.